Hey everyone, welcome back to When Creatives Thrive, a BOPA podcast. I'm Stuart Rustin, the multimedia manager at BOPA, and this episode we're joined by Amy L. Bernstein, a Baltimore-based author, book coach, and creativity counselor. She's also a past BOPA grant recipient and participant in Fall Baltimore. Throughout her career, she's worked in playwriting, journalism, speechwriting, and communications. These days, she leads creativity workshops that focus on recognizing each artist's personal inspiration, as well as identifying and managing blockages like self-doubt. Bernstein's most recent publication, Wrangling the Doubt Monster, Fighting Fears, Finding Inspiration, builds upon this work. Her book is designed for anyone who has doubts about their abilities, talents, or capability to pursue creative endeavors. Amy draws from her own experiences in the arts to help guide audiences in both Baltimore and throughout the country to be joyful, take risks, and stay productive, all while embracing doubt and walking with it instead of running away from it. I'm here with Amy L. Bernstein. Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Stuart. I'm really pleased to be here with you.
You were actually one of the first people to reach out to us after the podcast dropped, interested in talking to us, which I am so glad that you did. Yeah, I'm curious why you decided to reach out and, what sort of experiences you've had with BOPA in the past.
Well, BOPA has definitely been parts of my life sort of directly and indirectly for a long time. And how could it not? I've lived in Baltimore over 3 decades. I've been, a writer in various forms and a playwright during that time. And I probably can't even remember all the ways that BOPA has helped to support things that I've been involved in, either in the playwriting community or just the writing community in general. I was really pleased to get a free fall grant from BOPA, which was really exciting this past fall, actually tremendously exciting and hugely helpful, and enabled me to launch one of my creativity workshops where I work with multi-genre artists of all ages and backgrounds, helping them to recognize their own sources of inspiration as well as their blockages and manage doubt and be able to move forward. It was an incredible opportunity. So that's one of the many things that I'm grateful to BOPA for.
I wanted to talk a little bit about something I saw on your website, which I thought was so awesome. There's a quote that says, "Your first short story was written when you were in 2nd grade, and ever since, writing is the activity that brings you the most comfort, joy, and agony, often all at once." And I was hoping you could explain that.
I think probably every writer out there can relate to these sentiments. There are those of us who communicate with the world, interpret the world, try and make sense of the world, the human condition, our lives, through the written word, through text. Obviously, there are people who do this in other ways, through painting or through any number of things. And writing is such a set of contradictory experiences. You have to do it alone, but you want to be in community with readers. You want to write well, but writing well is just about one of the hardest things to do on the planet, trust me. So it's really a difficult endeavor, and we do it in a very commercialized context, certainly in the United States, which makes it harder. And it raises lots of doubts, as a matter of fact.
I wonder, though, were you dealing with those sorts of doubts when you were in 2nd grade? I just remember, as a child, free-flowing.
I think that when we're children, we are connected with our innate creativity in a completely natural and unimpeded way. And as we get older, culture steps in and tells us what to value and how to use our time and how to measure the outcomes of what we do. And the arts so often fall by the wayside, and we suppress our artistic impulses because there's other stuff that's so much more important, where really, no, there isn't. Making art is about one of the most important human endeavors that there is and always has been. And so I do think that we lose touch with that inner creative child. And this is one reason so many people reach midlife. They hit their maybe late 40s, 50s, mid-50s, and they wake up and they say, is that all there is? Is this it? It's not enough. And what they're really saying is, I've lost touch with the most creative part of my being because I've got work and I've got responsibilities and it's not feeding my soul, and I need to find a way back. I think it's a really important realization.
Definitely. And I think that leads us really well to talking about your latest publication, which is called Wrangling the Doubt Monster. And I was hoping you could give us a bit of a synopsis. And also, how were you able to identify doubt as the thing that would drive this book forward?
Right. So I'll describe the book briefly and answer that, which is, of course, a good question. Wrangling the Doubt Monster, which then is also called Fighting Fears, Finding Inspiration, is a little book that I think is going to punch above its weight because it really is a conversation sort of between me, the author, and every creative person out there who's had a lot of doubts about their ability, about their talent, about their capacity to, pursue these creative endeavors. And doubt does take many, many forms. It can be fear, it can be procrastination, it can be anxiety. So it's almost a collection or an umbrella for a lot of things that we feel. Now, we feel these things in real life that have nothing to do with art. There's no question. We have doubts about our abilities to parent well. We have doubts about, we'll have enough to retire on. We have doubts about whether going to college is worth coming out in debt. We have doubts about everything. But my journey began with focusing on the doubts that creative people have in particular. And I realize now that this very much has come out of my own journey with doubt and how as I get older, I've gotten so much better at managing the way doubt plays a role in my life and how I can be joyful, take risks, be productive, be creative, despite doubts. But it's taken me a long time to get there. And I think the book, which is really just meant to encourage every self-doubting creative in every discipline imaginable, encourage you to feel seen and realize you're supported in these feelings and that you can work with them, that they don't have to defeat you and stop you. This absolutely grows out of my own experience of a lifetime.
What sort of experiences did you have either personally or professionally that you feel put you into a position to be able to now offer guidance to other people?
Well, first of all, it's true that sometimes wisdom does come with age, and as you get older, you begin to have more perspective on a lot of things, and you're able to let go of what's not serving you. Some people do that sooner rather than later. It's taken me a long time. But, I realized that I see places where doubt really stopped me when I was much younger. And, if I could go back and talk to that person, I would hand them this book, Wrangling the Doubt Monster, and say, you know what? This is going to help you because you're going to be able to move past this. It doesn't have to stop you. I remember trying to write a novel. I was about 22 or 23. And I'm in awe of people that age who do write brilliant novels. I mean, it's amazing. But I was like a lot of people. I started and I stopped because, I can't do this. Who do I think I am? I can't do this. I'm going to just stop because there's no way. And I look back on that and I wish I could sit myself down and say, no. Keep going. It's okay to flounder. It's experiment. Keep pushing. See where it leads you. And I couldn't do that. And that that's one tiny example of how doubt functions. Doubt can be a brick wall that stops us in our tracks because we just don't see a way forward and we're afraid to try. But when you learn how to walk with your doubt, you recognize that doubt is there, but you're going to persist despite it. And it's a commitment and kind of a mindset.
How would you describe the structure of the book? Is there a through line? Is there a narrator that leads us through the book? Or what could a reader expect?
The book is not a big, heavy tome. It's not really a guidebook. It's not a big how-to book. It's not deeply intellectually philosophical, but it's a tiny bit of all those things. And when I wrote it, I found that function dictated form in that I wrote these sort of short, sharp, narrative, almost hybrid prose, poetry thoughts on each page, each of which is holding doubt up to the light and turning it around and examining it from a slightly shifted perspective. So the goal is that the reader finds something to discover for themselves on every page. And as you and I were saying earlier, it's really kind of a conversation. The book is a conversation, and you, the reader, are in that conversation. I just want to add also that it is illustrated, and the illustrations bring this wonderful sort of warmth and whimsy to a subject that can get pretty heavy pretty fast.
I was actually going to ask you about the illustrations because I wasn't expecting it at first. And you're right. They're friendly. They're like approachable. The doubt monster is actually a monster that's portrayed in the book. And I was wondering how you came to the realization that doubt maybe is easier dealt with when we can kind of put it into a physical form and look at it. Or maybe another way of asking is like, how was the doubt monster born?
There's different ways of breaking down an answer to that. The concept was there with me pretty early on, not using that exact word, although I'm pretty sure that in the book, I know in the book, I should know what's in the book. I do use the term doubt monster, but it wasn't the original title. And as my publisher and I were brainstorming better titles than the first title that I had, and thank goodness that we did, I realized that I had already said it, that doubt monster was the thing. And I realized that that could become a really great working metaphor, which we then turned into sort of visual art for talking about this lump that's in our gut when we're wondering whether we can go through with something or whether we should take a risk or whether we're even good enough or capable. And so it became a really great way of working with the concept in an approachable way, in a sort of a concrete way, in an illustrative way, and it became a great tool for all of that.
I always think about monsters as in the monster that hides underneath your bed.
Yep.
You know, that
Yep.
was such a, like a timeless tool that we use to discuss the unknown or fear. Yeah, I wonder how the unknown plays into all of this. Like you go down a path as a creative and you don't exactly know how it's going to turn out.
You're so right about that. We've all been there, right? And so one of the things that I talk about when I'm talking about strategies that we can tap into to help us get a handle on this, I talk about renegotiating our relationship to risk. Because when we're going to try something new or going to experiment in any form, you're immediately facing the unknown. You don't know how it's going to turn out. You know, in you're writing a book, you may not know yet how the story ends. You may not know how a painting's going to ultimately look. And so the unknown is that scary place because you can't measure it, you can't manage it, you may not yet be able to envision it. You just know you want to go somewhere. It's like, you know, before GPS, you could get lost on the highway really easily. You kind of had a general idea where you were heading, but you didn't really know.
Right.
I actually got scared when I got lost. And I think that's a whole other thing. Like, what was going to happen? I wasn't going to fall off the edge of the flat earth, was I? But it was scary to me. And I do think that in renegotiating your relationship to risk, you are opening yourself up to take those chances and knowing that you're going to remain safe sort of in your core, but that you have to allow your imagination to step out into new places because that's where the rewards are going to be for you. And you can't fear potential failure. You almost have to court it, embrace it. And, you know, experimentation is at the heart of art making. And that means doing things that are unknown and trying things that are unknown and pushing toward outcomes that are unknown.
I wonder if you can talk a bit about vulnerability as a part of the process of dealing with doubt or progressing as an artist.
Yes. Part of what I'm trying to do here is normalize conversations around doubt, because when we express doubt, we are showing our vulnerability. We're showing that we don't have all the answers. We're not quite sure maybe who we are, where we're going. And we're in a culture that really values and prizes certainty. Whether it's right or wrong is not the point. If you come across as incredibly certain, people, you know, sort of endow you with certain powers. And so it's really difficult to show vulnerability, which translates into weakness, which translates into being a loser. And that's a really hard thing to do. Certainly, you know, America still has a very kind of macho-fueled culture that rewards, you know, certain kinds of muscularity and success in all the ways that can manifest itself. And when you are making art, you're already in a kind of a risk-taking position with respect to so many things. First of all, with respect to the practicalities of life, like earning a living, like not having your dad say to you over and over, why don't you go out and get a real job? So you're already vulnerable. And so what I see, and I've seen this in my creativity workshops, artists are suffering in silence. They're not even suffering in community. Some people are, but a lot are not. They actually think, because people have said this, they think that they're the only one who kind of feels this way, like that I don't know what I'm doing, I can't do this, I really want to, but I'm just lost. There must be something wrong with me. I'm not good enough because I can't figure this out. And all those things are aspects of sort of living with the doubt, and the doubt monster that's kind of deep in your gut. And if we start having conversations around this in community together as artists, and I've done this in my workshops, and it's remarkable, people are looking around the room and going, oh, you feel this way too. Oh, it's not just me, and it's not something wrong with me, and it's not proof that I don't deserve to be in this space. And so, but we have to talk about it, and we have to talk about it in safe spaces. And I think artists really thrive in community, and this is part of the conversation for those communities to have.
I'm wondering if you can talk at all about any doubt that you may have had while writing this particular book.
I wrote it in a really intense burst. I was almost in I don't want to be overly dramatic and say I was in a trance. I wasn't walking around like I was sleepwalking, but I was kind of in a trance in that once I started, I didn't know where it was going. I just realized that these pieces were starting to flow out of me. And every day I would wake up literally and go back to the computer and think of a new way to talk about this. And I just pushed and pushed and pushed. And in that process, I was not doubting, which is, of course, ironic, writing about doubt. Maybe I was exorcising. It was kind of an exorcism for me in a way. I mean, I still have doubts, of course. I'll talk about that in a moment. But in writing the book, it was almost a pushback in articulating all the ways that doubt defines us, affects us, holds us back, and realizing how it had done that to me throughout my life. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a writer until I was well into my 50s, and that's what I had done my whole life, and I wouldn't use the word. I mean, doubt was just raging. And I think so writing the book was a real palate cleanser for me. Now, where the doubt comes in is you write this thing, and then you want somebody to publish it. Well, and then it's the normal, I've been through this so many times. It's like, well, is anyone else going to value this?
Yeah, of course.
Like, what do I have? Is this anything? Do I have something? What is it? And so that happens, and that's normal. Now, all you can do is manage and control your response to that. You can't control who's going to reject you. You can control how you respond to rejection, and doubt is very much tied up in that.
You mentioned earlier in our conversation that dealing with doubt gives you the possibility of taking more creative risks. And I'm wondering, although you've just published a book, Creative Risk, but I'm wondering what other sort of creative risks that you have in mind for yourself going forward in 2025.
Yes, this is, I have a word for myself this year, which is fearless. That's my word. I was asked, or a bunch of people were asked, what is your word for the year? I was like, fearless. And so, I'm going to pitch a TEDx talk, and the thing there is, I really want to do it. I found the place to pitch to, which is not easy with TEDx, if anyone's been in that world. They get hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of, I think, what did I read? They got over 700 submissions last year for 12 spots.
Wow.
So you can look at that in a couple of different ways. I mean, you can look at that and basically go, well, I'm not going to try. I mean, they won't pick me. But you don't need to take a self-defeating posture, and it's best not to. It's best to court the rejection and have made the attempt. And so I'm absolutely going to pitch that TEDx. I'm going to write the best damn pitch that I can. And what you have to realize is, and this may be a bit of a tangent, but it's so critical. When the universe says no, first of all, it's not the worst thing that can happen to us by a long shot. Let's remember that. Second of all, there are so many variables that gatekeepers are fooling around with that have nothing to do with you, your art, your talent, your merit, any of it. It has to do with so many other factors that you don't even see half of them. And so, when you're looking at how do we cull 712 submissions down to 12 submissions, we're looking for the varieties in the kinds of people, varieties in gender, varieties in background, varieties in place of origin, varieties in age, varieties in topic. I mean, you can't control whether you're going to be in that mix. If 300 people around your age and who kind of look like you also apply, well, you may not make the cut. It's got nothing to do with your work. So you have to remember all these things. So that is something I am absolutely looking forward to. Trying to really build awareness for this book is a major part of my agenda this year. And I'm swinging for the fences, trying to really break through at a national level. And I have people who believe in me and support me in doing that, which is great. And I don't know if it'll happen, but I sure as hell am going to try. And I do a tremendous amount of teaching and speaking now. I'm going to the San Francisco Writers Conference, and I've got other conferences coming up, and basically connecting with writers around the country and helping people develop their own craft is a big thing that I'm committed to, which is very joyful work. And I'm a book coach, so I help other authors on their path to publishing. So these are all ways in which I'm trying to support, encourage, inspire others and help them see their own potential.
As you're coaching or as you're working with people in groups, maybe without naming names or getting into specifics, have there been any kind of major breakthroughs that you can point to and say, hey, the things that I'm doing, the ways that I'm helping people, even here locally in Baltimore, this is clearly work worth doing?
Yes. Maybe not in a spectacular, dramatic fashion, but in a smaller fashion. First of all, my book coaching clientele is all over the country, and they don't happen to be local. And there have been incredible breakthroughs there when an author really gets what the point of their book is, or when an author gets a book deal with some support from me, or finishes a draft that didn't exist before with support from me. These are significant achievements. But locally, I would say that certainly through the creativity workshops that I've run about 3 so far, being in the room with multi-genre artists, some of them are in film, some of them are in music, some of them are in fine arts, some of them are in writing, it's all over the map. Watching them be able to re-articulate a commitment to the kind of art they want to make where they felt so blocked from doing so, and being able to put this in writing and feeling lighter when they leave and able to really kind of go forward. I mean, those are important breakthroughs. And I can't speak to whether those things have been sustained, but you can see in the moment that people are changing how they think about themselves as artists. And that's the essential starting point. So that's incredibly valuable, and I really hope to do more of that work.
I would love if you could read a little bit from Wrangling the Doubt Monster so the audience listening can get a taste of what it sounds like.
Sure. I will read a passage. Every single act of creating is also an act of doubting. You cannot make without wondering. You cannot wonder without questioning. You cannot question deeply without exposing yourself to the unknown. Becoming exposed leads to feeling vulnerable. Feeling vulnerable leaves you open to uncertainty. Uncertainty is a close cousin of doubt, a state where truth and clarity shimmer like ghosts. So much you do not know, cannot pin down, cannot point to and say, yes, that. When you create, you will doubt. Accepting that is your gift to yourself.
It really is a gift, isn't it?
Yes.
I think so often, and maybe I'm just speaking from my own personal experience, but we look at the things that we haven't done, we haven't achieved, that those are the benchmarks for how we act, how we behave, but we're rarely kind to ourselves for the things that we did do or that we were able to push past in a creative or an artistic sort of way. It seems like that's a big part of this coexistence with doubt.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. We need to change the channel or turn down the volume on all the negative voices and the doubt voices and turn up the volume on the voices that remind us we're pretty awesome. We've done a lot in our lives. We've come a long way. And that if any one of us could go back to the 10-year-old us and that kid could meet the adult that you've become, well, they're going to be blown away. It's like, what? You've done all this and you do that and you're this? Wow. So, we're so much more awesome than we give ourselves credit for. And it really is important to try and adjust that volume knob amidst all the clamoring voices in our head.
Amy, where can people find you online?
Well, one very easy starting point is my website, amywrites.live. It's just AMYWRITES.live. You can find out all about Wrangling the Doubt Monster, my other books, other things I do, right there. And the book is, as we say, available wherever books are sold, through Amazon. It's in print, ebook, and audio. But you can go to bookshop.org or right here in town, walk into Greedy Reads or the Ivy or Barnes & Noble, wherever you want to go, and order it.
Amy L. Bernstein, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been awesome. Thank you for talking to us about your new book, and would love to have you back soon.
Thank you, Stuart. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks again to Amy for being on the podcast, and thanks to you for listening. If you'd like to meet and support Amy in person, stop by the Barnes & Noble in Pikesville on April 4th, 2025. She'll be there to highlight her new book, Wrangling the Doubt Monster, and sign copies. If you're interested in being an upcoming guest on the podcast, reach out to me at srustin@promotionandarts.org to be featured next. And remember, when creatives thrive, we all rise.